Hello and welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be installing the PPF that I want to put on in the front and the back. Reason being for basically not having the roof rack come in close contact with the paint and collect all sorts of debris that could end up messing up the paint, which happens unfortunately very often with people who don't do that extra step. I've seen it myself. It really needs to be done. So I have Knifeless tape, if you guys ever wondered what that looks like when installing vinyl or PPF. I got the special one specifically for PPF, and we'll see how that works. I've used it before on vinyl. I'm doubtful it's going to cut through it, but I'm waiting to be surprised. But other than that, I mean, we just got to start off by cleaning off the roof a little, and then also kind of degreasing the surface and then getting into the actual install of the PPF. But without any further ado, let's get to it. Alright guys, so first things first, before we install the vinyl, we do have to do a little bit of cleaning on the roof here. We have the line going from here basically towards the windshield. The PPF that I have is this one, Vivid Vinyls. I've used a lot of their stuff before, never the PPF. I've only really used their wraps. I've done some wrapping of the chrome trim around like door edges, window edges, and that worked really well for that. But PPF is typically much thicker than vinyl if you want to get the good one. And what happens is with the Knifeless tape, it actually is harder for it to cut through the PPF as opposed to vinyl, which is a lot thinner. But this is definitely enough width for us to go all the way across. I don't plan on going anywhere past the sunroof. There's going to be a wind guard here on the roof rack, so any rocks or debris would never hit this area or anywhere past the roof over there. It was actually the same price as just like a regular 2-inch thick PPF strip. And I didn't want to just tack on a strip just to cover those spots, those problem areas, which it would be enough. But I wanted to really kind of make it cleaner and really cover more of the roof. So let's get to cleaning and installing the PPF. Alright guys, so I'm not doing anything crazy here. I'm kind of just wiping down the roof with this wet paper towel. Not putting a lot of pressure. You want to make sure that you're not digging the debris into the paint. This is just kind of a first step to take off that first layer of debris. Just because there's a lot on here. It's been a while since I washed the car. It is winter here now, so kind of hard to keep it clean. I have something else that I'll be using with a microfiber to really degrease the surface and to finally give it a good clean, to give it a good adhesion point for that PPF so it doesn't start peeling up at some point. Hey guys, might as well clean the rear. Paper towel's still wet. Don't want it to dry up before we end up getting to the degreaser and to doing the rest of the install of the PPF. Here I'm not going to go very far. I'm literally only just going to go up to where these recesses end up occurring. Probably just this little strip over here. I was thinking about covering the spoiler, but if you look from the side, it kind of slopes down. So all of the debris usually would fly over, especially with that wind guard in front. That's going to really change the aerodynamic flow of the car. So the spoiler really isn't necessary. This is just the PPF for the roof rack itself because it will be getting pretty close over here as well. So let's just clean this off a little bit. I am up on a ladder. Definitely much easier to have a ladder to do this. We do have side steps. We could just step on the tire and kind of hold on. It will make the chances are that's what we're going to be doing when we're going to be putting on the roof rack, just because it will be less cumbersome. But for right now, just to clean this part, this kind of works out pretty well. Highly recommend it. We're going to be using the tough stuff for this part. I've used this stuff for years, honestly. It's a multi-purpose cleaner specifically made for cars. You could see that it says deep cleaning for fabric, carpet, and vinyl. But if you read on the back, it does say cleaning any washable or painted surface. So this should work on exterior paint as well as upholstery and fabric. I've used it on paint before and it works really well just to get all the grease out and give a really good surface on which to put anything on, any stickers or anything that requires adhesion. So for this, I'm just gonna put on a little bit on the rag here. It kind of goes on as like this foam. It's similar to what glass cleaner actually does. And then when you wipe it down, it leaves no streaks, no smudges, no anything. So essentially that's the whole purpose of this right here. It smells fantastic too. It's like a lemon scent. And basically this, since it's a microfiber and since we got rid of most of the debris, we could actually put a little more pressure. It'll collect more of the dirt off the surface. I know I'm supposed to actually be using water, obviously, and soap to clean the car. I always do. This is just kind of like a smaller area and don't really have access to that here. I'd have to go to a car wash, which again, it's the winter, there's salt all over the road. I'd still have to end up degreasing the surface after even driving for a few minutes. So this works just as well. Typically, if you use this stuff on upholstery, the way it works is you spray it on and you let it sit for like 60 seconds and then you start wiping off, just because it like then really digs into the grime that's in the seats and everything, or carpet. But in this case, you really just want the degreasing properties of it, and that's pretty much instantaneous. Whenever you spray it on, it already acts as a degreaser. So you could see a lot of the stuff came off. So something that just came to my attention right after cleaning all of this over here, to install the PPF. If you look real close, you can barely see it on camera, but that right there, that little speck, a rock chip or something, it's actually starting to rust. And there you go. Focus a little bit for a second there. It's starting to rust right there. So can't in good conscience put PPF over that. I'm gonna end up using some of this Lexus touch-up paint. I got it directly from Lexus. So this is the exact paint code for this car. I'm literally just gonna put a little tiny sliver on it just to cover that up and just to keep the rust from spreading any further. Probably a good step to do before you put PPF over it. So this edge over here is actually made to kind of score the surface so that the paint has good adhesion. You could hear it crunching because it comes direct contact with metal. If you do it like on any painted surface, you kind of hear it like making some sound. I don't want to put too much pressure because it could take off the clear coat, but you can kind of hear it digging into the metal there, and then you can kind of see more of that orange dust. That's actually the rust mixed with this element on top. All right, guys, so with this touch-up paint, you really got to get it mixed in really well after it sits for a while. So in the directions here, it'll be kind of hard to see, but it tells you to shake it for at least 60 seconds. Shake container for 30 seconds, okay. So the previous touch-up paint that I had from Lexus, it actually said 60, so maybe they changed something in the formula on these newer cars. But basically you're doing this, you could hear the little ball in there that's actually mixing up the paint. And once you've shaken this for 30 seconds, you can get to the painting process. So once you've shaken it, you can take off that little white cap that you saw. If you can even look right now, I can barely even find where the dot is. It's right there. It's barely visible. Took out all the rust that was in that kind of slash in the paint. And now because of that, you can't even see it. It's even smaller than it actually is. But you really want like a good surface to paint on, even if it is so small, just so that you don't have rust building up under the paint. So that kind of cleaned it up. I also hit it with a little bit more of the degreaser on the rag and kind of cleaned up that surface again, just so we have, again, good adhesion for the paint. So of course we're going to be doing this, and then I'm not going to put the PPF on right away. We want to give it a good amount of time to dry, so we could actually end up moving to the rear for that next part. But once you take the cap off, you have this little ballpoint pen looking thing. So when you press down on it, it actually moves. So that pressing motion is what gets the paint to accumulate in that point. There is also a brush option if you unscrew this part. The brush is way too thick for such a small area. You really want something smaller to really get into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on this rag. You want to kind of double layer it a little bit, and you could already see the paint is coming out. See, now it's white in that tip. Yeah, so once it becomes white like that, you're able to start painting. Okay, so that's a little bit more than I wanted. We definitely got to get in there with a toothpick. I grabbed one of these toothpicks. So let's give that a shot. What we're gonna do is, I'm gonna go back to the touch-up pen here. I'm gonna make another few blotches in one spot. Let me just clean up this tip first. I'm gonna make a few blotches in one spot. There you go. So we got a good little pool of paint right there. So we got a fine point now. And we're gonna get in there. Yeah, there you go. That's what we needed. All right, so now it's covered with the paint. It's such a small spot, it looks pretty bad on camera. You zoom out, you can only tell it now because it kind of still needs some time to dry, but once it dries, it will be literally unnoticeable. Let's move to the back. I'm gonna hit that with the degreaser, and we're gonna work on installing the PPF back there. We also can use the edge of the old roof rails to kind of get a guide of where the PPF should sit. Mounting locations are under these caps here. So once we're ready, we're going to be removing these rails and replacing it with the roof rack, which will be sitting on these edges here. So for this part, we're going to be using the Knifeless tape. I'm going to lay it down on the edge here, and kind of simple in its application. You have this side here, and if you look really closely, you can kind of see the wire in there. There you go, that's a better look. That little metal wire is what actually is going to be cutting through the PPF. So we're laying it down with the sticky side down, of course, so that it sticks to the surface. And then on top of that, we're putting on the PPF. All right, so it's kind of hard to show you guys how it's going. But basically what I'm doing is I'm focusing on this edge of the green to be over the edge of where the body turns. That way the metal wire is basically right on that turning point of the body panel. So what I'm doing is I'm holding the tape down with my thumb as I'm going along and kind of lining it up to always sit in the right spot, using that edge of the green to kind of point me in the right direction. And then as I'm pulling on the tape roll, I'm sticking it down and kind of following along the edge. I'm going to go all the way to the rear. All right, so once you have it all laid out, it should kind of look something like this. When you get to the end here, what you want is just a razor so that you can cut through that Knifeless tape. And my little box cutter here. I'm going to leave a little bit more on the edge here also. And we're just going to readjust that. And we're going to lay over the PPF and see how this Knifeless tape works. So we have the PPF here. We're going from this edge to this edge over here. So we're not going to need more than that PPF. That way on the other side, where the lines are a lot more visible, it will be easier for me to cut. So now we have the exact length, or pretty close to it, to what we need here to cover this part of the car. Basically, what you want to do is you want to start at one of these corners. You don't want to touch the actual PPF. You kind of just want to touch the plastic, the paper that it's stuck on. So be very careful in this part. You want to kind of line it up with where you want it to be, but if you stick on just that part, it's barely stuck on, so if you pull too hard, it will actually come off, ruining the alignment that you just worked so hard for. The bottom part here of the film I could touch because we're not even going to be using that. And then we follow the edge line over here. So that's how we would get the film started. So as you're sticking down this film, you got to be extra careful to make sure that you're keeping this side of the film all the way up against this roof rail here, because if you don't, it's going to end up taking an angle of its own, and then it's just not going to line up perfectly over here. The kit that came with the film included one of these soft cards here. So what this card does is it's going to allow you to apply even pressure as you're sticking on the film. So we have the film laid down right there. We're keeping that position. So you really do want to take your time and kind of work your way out from one side of the panel to the other side and kind of just work it with the squeegee. Meanwhile, keeping this, making sure that it doesn't go anywhere it's not supposed to. Here, this is going to work as like an extra set of hands that'll hold down the vinyl as you're sticking it on over there. So that keeps it nice and flat. Now we're going to pull up over here and get our fingers in there. Again, we don't care about this bottom part of the film. We only care about the top. So, as you're doing this, you're going to see kind of air bubbles under the film. Air bubbles aren't going to affect how the film performs, but it will affect how it looks. So, if you want to go for those good, clean aesthetics, you want to kind of mold the film at your own pace. That way, if it lays down on its own, it will form those air bubbles. If you're molding it, then you can kind of put down the film with the squeegee instead of having gravity do its job. So you can see I'm kind of pulling the film back, going backwards. And as I'm doing that, I'm doing a uniform motion all across the film to make sure there are no air bubbles trapped. Doing half an inch to an inch sections at a time with the squeegee. Literally there's only going to be like 2 points here and here that the roof rack actually comes in contact, and it goes all the way to the edge of the car. Anyway, so I'm just cutting the edge here with the razor. The rest of it can fold over. So now, here comes the actual thing that I'm most curious about. Is will this knifeless tape here, which is rated for PPF, actually work? Alright guys. This knifeless tape does not want to do the edge. I can't seem to catch it. So what I'm going to end up doing, I'm just going to, because we do have a big enough gap here, I'm just going to use the razor. just these creases here. I'm also gonna get rid of this whole roll of Knifeless tape. So I'm gonna open up the hatch here, and then I can fold over the edge of the wrap. Kind of hard to see. Actually stand right here. Where it's done. I'm pretty happy with that. Alright guys, so I found a way to kind of show you the front wrapping procedure. Not the best angle, but it kind of works. You can kind of see this whole, at least part of this front. Watch some videos on this Knifeless tape specifically, and yeah, the previous one that I've used, it was kind of just pull on the line itself, like kind of fish it out and then just pull on it. Whereas this one, there's a different method of applying it and utilizing it. I'm gonna try and give it another chance to actually make it work. Degrease this area once again so that we again have a very nice surface on which we can have our PPF stick to. Because the plan is following the sunroof line and kind of putting it over the windshield. Since we don't have a straight line pretty much anywhere, there's really no edge that we can even follow. So it seems like we're going to need Knifeless tape all the way around. We have all of our Knifeless tape down. So all we have to do is lay down the wrap and we should be able to cut out this perfect square. I'm giving the Knifeless tape another shot here because I'm kind of disappointed that it didn't work. I did it wrong. It's part of the learning experience. So anyway, we're gonna go, I'm just gonna wrap all the way over this completely. The cut does not have to be perfect since we aren't using any of the edges of this. We're only using the whatever the Knifeless tape cuts out. Once you got the cut going, you have to sharpen up the blade. Goes right on through. You always want to cut away from yourself. I know I'm not doing that right now, but I'm also not putting a lot of pressure. So now we have a piece of wrap that fully covers everything, all of our Knifeless tape lines. So what we're gonna do is, I'm just gonna start on one side. I'm gonna keep the position the way it is right now. So we kind of have it laid out perfectly. And we're gonna start at this edge here. Lighting here isn't perfect, so it's kind of hard to tell when they form. So you take the edge of the tape, you fold it over like this, and you put your finger down, and you pull. Great. So what's supposed to happen when you pull is the wire was supposed to come out. And let's try again. Fold it down. Yeah. All I'm getting is the wire breaking off in my hand. I can see the wire in there. I can see the wire inside the tape. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'm just breaking it with my hand. So I'm gonna try again. Since it actually does work, I'm hopeful. So I'm folding it over, holding this. We're supposed to pull up. Yeah, I mean, it's just not doing it. It's literally just not doing it. So what I ended up doing was I grabbed it with nails and kind of just stripped off the edge of the tape. Now we have the wire just hanging out. The problem with that is it doesn't go along the green tape then, it just kind of wants to slide from under the green tape. Oh, no, actually I got it this time. There it goes. All right, so we have the wire going. Don't break. It's cutting through the PPF. All right, well, I stand corrected. It works. It definitely works. So definitely user error on my part. Half user error, half, I don't know, maybe some kind of defect. There's another strip done. Problem when you strip it with your nails, what ends up happening is that edge, where you stripped it, the green tape kind of folds in on itself because you've pulled the green tape essentially. So when it does that, you kind of have to like snake out the wire from underneath, get past that piece of green tape that kind of folded on itself, and then start pulling upwards, and then it should cut through the green tape once the green tape is already flat like it is here. If you grab the tape in between your fingernails and you kind of just pull on it without really putting a lot of pressure, you just pull on it lightly, what ends up happening is a piece of that wire actually pops up. And then you can kind of grab that piece and start pulling that. It kind of cuts right through. And then once we've done that, you can pull off the excess.